Hello, Professor Whitney. I have my 3 roommates with me and then my roommate's girlfriend and 3 of her friends on FaceTime. Suicide is a huge problem in the United States. In 2020, there was 46,000 lives taken by suicide. Myself, I've been a person who has suffered from depression. It is a very serious thing and people need to start getting help more often. Suicide is a very serious problem in the US and it needs to be taken more seriously. Today I will share with you the many reasons people attempt suicide, how suicide can affect all ages, and as a whole, people can help prevent suicide. So here are all the ages suicide affects. Suicide is the 9th leading cause of death for ages 10 to 64. Suicide is the 2nd leading cause of death for the ages 10 to 14 and 25 to 34. Many people think suicide is more towards people in their 20s and 30s. Suicide is very serious with all ages. The only way this can be prevented is looking for the signs. If one of your friends is acting different, just a simple, "Are you doing okay?" will help. If they are not willing to talk about it, notifying a parent is a step in the right direction. I have a graph here that I'll show. And this shows the deaths per 100,000 in specified groups. So you can see that ages 10 to 14 is not that high, but it goes up and up and up. And when it hits 45 to 64 is when most of the suicides happen. Knowing that suicide affects all ages, let's talk about why many people attempt suicide. Mental health. A big reason many people attempt suicide is because of depression, and this is the most common reason people attempt suicide. The pain of existence often becomes too much for severely depressed people to bear. A person may be psychotic. Psychosis is much harder to mask than depression, and can be even more tragic. Schizophrenics are likely to talk freely about the voices telling them to kill themselves. A person may be impulsive, and this is often related to drugs and alcohol. Some people become maudlin and impulsively attempt to end their own lives. As you heard, mental health is a big part in why many people attempt to take their own lives. Now let's talk about ways to help prevent suicide. Preventing suicide. As we all know, suicide is a serious public health problem that can have long-lasting effects on people. Suicide is a preventable thing. We can do this by making economic support stronger, which can be making household financial security and stabilizing housing stronger, creating protective environments, like reducing access to lethal means among people at risk of suicide, and creating healthy organizational policies and culture. Improving access and delivery of suicide care, and we need to cover mental health conditions, insurance policies, and provide rapid and remote access to help. And I have a video here that will show you ways to help prevent suicide.
I was getting into a pretty bad depressive cycle. It was getting tougher and tougher to get out of bed. I couldn't go to my workouts and I couldn't go to my runs. I couldn't find any motivation. Getting to school was tough. I was falling behind, and as it went on, the more difficult it became. I felt I couldn't escape. I couldn't get out. The only way out was suicide. I felt so alone, totally by myself. It was so very hard. I was in a headspace where I believed no one really cared for me. No one wanted to be with me. I had to deal with everything by myself. The more I thought about suicide, the more I realized I didn't want to die. There was more I wanted from life. I didn't want it to be over. I worked up the courage to talk to my parents, and it wasn't as hard as I imagined. They gave me the courage to connect with support services. And once I started talking, it became easier and I felt better. At first, I was worried everyone would think differently about me, and this kept me from talking to anyone. But as I reached out, it was the opposite. Everyone around me wanted to help. I'm so happy I asked for the help. They cared about me, and their opinions never changed. From the first session, I started feeling more like myself. I know when you feel alone, it's hard to hear others tell you you're not alone, but it's true. You need to push yourself to reach out. Even if you start with a friend or family member, or if they reach out to you, don't shut them out. Because truthfully, if I didn't reach out and talk to someone, there's a chance I wouldn't be here today. Everyone's been so helpful, and I'm forever grateful for the support system that I have around me.
After listening to me talk, you now know how serious suicide is in the US, and how we can all as a whole help prevent suicide. We now know all the ages that suicide affects, why many people are attempting to take their own lives, and how suicide can be prevented. Do you want to be that person that sees the signs of a person who is severely depressed and does not say anything? Now take a moment and think about the guilt you would feel if that person committed suicide. Be the person who helps prevent suicide. Thank you.